What is the funniest, real-life story you can tell? Story 1. My friend, his parents and I all went out to eat for his dad's birthday a few months ago, and me and my friend finished our food early, so his mom gave us $10 and a milk coupon to run to Meijer to pick up a shower mirror and a gallon of milk. This Meijer was unfamiliar to us, so we ended up wandering for a while to find our stuff, and my friend tells me he has to shit, so he ran off to find a bathroom while I finished looking for the stuff we needed. 10 minutes had passed and I was standing near the self-checkout waiting for him to show up when finally he walks up from behind me, and I noticed he seemed a bit nervous. The first thing he says is, "Hey, so we're bros, right?" I responded, "Yeah, I guess so." "Why?" He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I shit myself, dude." At first I thought it was a joke, but then he pulled his hand from his pocket, revealing a shit-covered $10 bill, coupon, and palm. He says, "Dude, I couldn't find the bathroom and it just slipped out." When I asked what he did with the shit, he looked around to make sure nobody else was listening and said, "I threw it on the shelf and ran." This was the icing on the cake to my hysterical laugh dead center in Meijer. He left to go clean up while I delicately handled the non-shit covered side of the money, and we left to find his parents waiting outside, pretty pissed off that we were so late. When we came up short on change, his mom asked why we didn't use the coupon. He pulled it slightly out of his pocket and said, "I don't know exactly how to tell you this, but..." Before he could finish, she interrupted with an angry, "You lost the coupon, didn't you? This is why I can't trust you to do things for me." He slid the poo-slathered coupon back to his pocket and muttered, "Yeah. I lost it," with relief. I couldn't contain my giggling the whole way home. He was actually terrified he'd end up on the news or something. TLDR, friend accidentally shat himself at Meijer and threw it on the shelf in panic. Story 2. High school junior year. First day of class. Teacher walks in, it's an older wrinkly guy with a stash. A little weird looking. His shirt is only tucked in on one side. Everyone is just getting the wrong vibe from this guy. Like, he's not all there in the head. He's got a manic look in his eyes. He's creepy. He starts going through attendance, not looking up the whole time. Then he gets to my name. Starts to say it, then stops. Looks up, scans the room, looks directly at me. Mr. 102,194, I'm glad you're here. How's your family? Is your little sister still playing the piano? Is that model ship still on your dresser? Is your room still blue? I'm shocked, mortified. I can't find the words to respond. This creeper has just described my family, and the fucking room I sleep in at night. Of course it is, it's only been what? A week? Then he goes back to attendance. Panics were had that day. But anyway, the next day I find out the old crazy guy is my uncle's best friend, and they and my dad decided to pull a prank on me for my first day. The teacher wasn't so crazy looking the rest of the year. He shaved the pedo stash, which he grew specifically for the prank, apparently, dressed better, stopped making his eye twitch, etc. I have to admit, it was a good prank, even if I was terrified of being murdered for a day or two. Story 3. One day in college, the teacher had stapled answer sheets to the back of every test by mistake. A few minutes after passing the tests around, his phone rang and he stepped out. Everyone had noticed the answer sheet, and we decided that we would all use it and tear it off after. Hopefully he would never notice. So I checked each of the answers and they were all correct except for the last one. We were to draw a flow chart for a process. I checked the answer sheet, answers will vary. I drew my flow chart, tore off the answer sheet and walked to the front podium to turn the test in. When I got to the podium I had to know. I needed to see what everyone else had drawn for their flow chart. Answers will vary. Everyone had written that on their tests. I don't remember what the teacher did about it. Edit, words is hard. Story 4. My ex-boyfriend's mom had her eye makeup tattooed on, and sent her kids, who lived with her at the time, to the store for a couple of things. It wasn't until my ex and his brother were in the checkout line, receiving funny looks from the clerk, that he realized that they were two lone men buying nothing but cucumbers and Vaseline, which his mom wanted to soothe the swelling from her eyes. My ex panics and blurts out, "No, it's okay, he's my brother," while gesturing to his brother. They received major, faces. He just stopped talking, figured there was nothing he could do to salvage the situation, and just accepted the judgment. Story 5. One time, in college, my buddies and I were out at the bars. One of my friends successfully picked up a co-ed and brought her back to the house. It was late in the spring and was hot, and the old house we were in didn't have AC. When this happened, we usually slept on couches and hammocks that were out on the front porch. A few of us were out there for a while, when one of my buddies got the genius idea to climb on the roof of the front porch to spy on our other buddy getting some. He couldn't make it up by himself, so I boosted him, tried to follow him up there, couldn't make it, and fell back to sleep on a couch. Next thing I know, there are 5 cop cars out on the street out front shining their spotlights at the porch roof. My buddy had passed out with his head resting on the windowsill, and the neighbors had called the cops. Now remember, it was hot outside, so he was just in his boxers. He eventually got down, and explained the situation, but ended up getting arrested anyways because his dumb ass gave a fake name for some unknown reason. As he was getting put in the back of the car, he was asking the female officer arresting him what time she got off work. The next day we went to bail him out, but the cop said one of us had to blow triple zeros. I made the attempt, successfully got the triple zeros, and the cop gave me a high five, and my buddy came out in paper pants. TLDR, buddy spied on other buddy, passed out, cops called for peeping Tom, buddy arrested for false name. Bailed out by blowing triple zeros, received high five from cop. Story 6. After having sex with the 4th girl of my young life at the time, I decided to get an STD check. Not for any physical reasons, mostly for the emotional reassurance. Anyways, I called my neighbor across the street who is 3 years older than me, basically my big brother, and I told him that I made an appointment to get checked and I asked him what it entailed. He said it wasn't too bad, they did a sperm sample, swabbed his dick, checked his blood, etc., etc. So I felt pretty prepared going in there a few days later. On my way to the clinic I was feeling pretty nervous to ejaculate in a cup, but I reassured myself that it was going to be fine. When I finally got there, an older lady called my name and handed me a clear cup and escorted me to the restroom and said, "Please go in here." I was picturing more of a comfortable room where I could do my private thing of choking my chicken, but I thought fuck it, the bathroom will suffice. I remember looking around for some pornographic material because my neighbor said that they provide you with some, but there was nothing. I remember thinking, what the fuck, this place just expects us to use our imagination? Disappointed, I said, oh well, not like I haven't used just my imagination before. So I began, masturbating over the sink. Anyways, I remember amazingly rubbing one out pretty fucking fast, almost too fast, so I thought that I'd wait in there an additional 10 minutes because I didn't want her to think that I was some type of freak. After waiting in there for what felt like an eternity, I finally handed my semen-filled cup back to the old lady nurse, who acted impatient and upset that I took so long. I began following her down the hallway. The woman set the cup on this desk table thingy, looked at it, and then picked it up again, and she jiggled the cup a little bit. She stopped. I held my breath as I looked at her face as I saw it turn from confusion to sheer horror. She turns to me and goes, Sir, we only needed your urine." I will never forget the feeling that I had at that very moment. My face got red, I felt immediately hot, my legs felt weak. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. There have been so many embarrassing moments in my life, but luckily I can think pretty quickly on my feet and I can dig my way out of most uncomfortable situations. As for this moment, there was no fucking shovel in sight for me to dig myself out of. Nothing to say, nothing to do, I just stood there terrified. I just jizzed in a fucking urine sample cup, and now this poor elderly woman who was probably months away from retirement was now horrified and confused as she was gripping a hot cup of my potential babies. I'm guessing the clinic never trained her for situations like this. Even if she had made a joke to lighten the mood, it would have been better, it would have killed the tension in the room. Instead, she remained stoic. I felt awkward and scared, I felt like a monster. After going back to pee and a few tests later, I got the F out of there. After much reflection though, I now think that she deserved it. Because honestly, yes, I did assume that she wanted a sperm sample, but the woman never specified what she wanted. Therefore she assumed I knew too, and when both people are assuming, chances are that one of them is going to get a cup full of the other one's jizz. It's just the way it is. God, I still cringe just thinking about that day. Sometimes when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I randomly think of that old woman's face as she realized that she's holding a cup filled with my hot semen soldiers, and I just bust out laughing and shake my head. Good times. Story 7. I was with a friend one night, pretty hammered, playing video games with him, also hammered, but he was on probation and so he wasn't allowed to drink. Me and him have gone through many beer, and his parents come in to check on us because it's late and we were being pretty noisy, and one thing led to another and they find out and instantly go berserk. Since I don't like dealing with berserk parents and he was upstairs arguing with them, I had no way out except for the window. I decide to bail and climb out the window and start walking towards the bus stop. I make it to the bus stop around 11:45 p.m., and no bus has arrived yet, and most buses don't run past 1 a.m. I decide to stay at my girlfriend's for the night because it's closer and 2 buses still ran to get me there, so I depart on the first bus. I arrive halfway to my girlfriend's house, but when I got there I realized the next bus doesn't come until 12:45 and it was only 12 o'clock. It was also cold as balls out there, middle of winter in Alberta, so I do what any reasonable person would do at 12 a.m., go up to the nearest apartment building and ring every single buzzer and tell them my Aunt Sylvia lives on floor 3 and I couldn't remember her apartment number. So after a little commotion I make my way up the stairwell to floor number 3 and lay down and look at Reddit to pass some time. I wake up 2 hours later to a conversation I heard in the apartment next to me, keywords, hobo, sleeping, hallway. So I'm like, oh shit, they called the cops, what time is it, I gotta get the fuck out of here, so I ran down the stairs and out the back exit. As I come around the building still totally hammered, I see a cop car pull up and they didn't look at me twice. I was an innocent looking 17-year-old. As soon as they come out of the building I ask them if they're heading towards the West End because I missed the last bus, and so they said, yeah, we came from over there, do you need a ride? So I said, yes I do. After riding in the back of their car for 15 minutes they arrive at the station and I depart on my way to my girlfriend's and make it there safe and sound. TLDR, drunk me misses last bus because I fell asleep in a random apartment complex and have the cops called on me for being a homeless guy sleeping in the building, get out of the building and catch a ride home with the cops that came to arrest me. Story 8. A friend of mine has the ultimate real-life story with a girl that was blackout drunk. He was bartending and Chippendale strippers came to town. The bar had hired several of the college football players to barback. Anyway, there is a group of girls at a table that had been drinking pretty heavy, and one of the girls upon ordering said it was their friend's 21st birthday. So he sent one of the football players with free shots to the table. The football player came back and said birthday girl wants you to bring the drinks to their table. So he delivered them and she was all excited. Fast forward to closing time, B-Day girl's friend tells him that B-Day girl wants him to take her home. Yeah sure, no problem, he needed to just finish up closing. So then he is taking her back to her apartment. She is friggin' ripped. She says this is my apartment. He begins to try every key on the keychain and none worked. He asks again, are you sure this is your apartment? Drunkenly she says yes, just kick in the door. Well, being horny he does. Upon walking in he smells new leather. He asks, did you just get new couches? She replies no by this time she is all over him. Clothes are flying and he starts banging her on the couch. After a while he feels something warm and thinks to himself, yeah, this girl just got hers. So after he finishes he gets up and goes to the bathroom. This is where things begin getting good. Upon turning on the lights in the bathroom he discovers exactly what that warmth she let out was. She had shit herself during coitus. Well, he just went ahead and got in the shower and cleaned up. Then he is looking for a towel and can't find one, so he walked into the kitchen and sees a kitchen towel and dried himself the best you can with a kitchen towel. Then he sees a picture on the counter of a black couple. Oh shit, he had broke into apparently a black couple that was in the process of moving into their new apartment. So he promptly put on his clothes, tells her I had fun, but she was already passed out. Well, fast forward a couple days and the police are leaving his bar as he is arriving to get ready for his shift. Manager says, what happened with you and the drunk B-Day girl? He said took her home and banged her and then left. Manager tells him, well, she hasn't been in contact with her parents in a couple of days and they are worried. He is thinking, oh shit. Well, couple of weeks go by and he is out at a different club and thinks he sees her across the dance floor. She then makes eye contact with him and promptly covers her face and runs out of the club. TLDR, my buddy actually fucked the shit out of a girl and may have committed a hate crime by accident. Story 9. Several months ago I whipped out the OL flashlight and turned the volume on my laptop up to a dull roar. I made the rookie mistake of thinking the house was empty. After all, I managed to walk downstairs, make myself some scrambled eggs for breakfast, take the dog out, and not hear a peep from anyone. I just naturally assumed I was home alone. After my 30 to 40 minutes long FAP session, full of lube sloshing around and other questionable noises, I start the process of cleaning things up when I see my phone light up with a text from my mom. Gee, that's funny, I think to myself, it's 11 a.m., why is mom texting me? She should be at work right now. Then it hit me. I heard the wheeling of the computer chair in the den downstairs. I take a big gulp. Ass cheeks puckering in with fear, I open the text to the one line that will forever haunt me to the grave. Not to scare you honey, but I am home. Zoxo mom. She knew. She fucking knew. Paralyzed with fear at this point, I just waited in my room till she left to do some errands. Maybe, just maybe, I thought, she didn't hear the ungodly noises coming from my room earlier and that the coast was clear. To test my logic, I went downstairs and played the porn at the same volume it had been playing earlier. It fucking echoed throughout the goddamn house. The way the acoustics in the ceiling worked, I wouldn't have been surprised if she heard the occasional queef from the girl getting railed in the porno. I couldn't look at my mom for weeks. The shame. Oh, the fucking shame. Story 10. A friend of my soon-to-be father-in-law is a bona fide fucking lunatic. Some guys had played a practical joke on him a few months back and he'd been waiting to get revenge. They live on the central coast of NSW in Australia, so there's a lot of water that separates the towns and people use boats a lot to get around. Some of the guys who'd pulled a practical joke on him called around to see him and hang out. He'd recently bought a new place and said why didn't they drive around and have a look. He said he'd be around shortly after and they could have a few beers and chill out there. Just before they left, he said that his mother was there but she was old and shit and just to hang outside until he got there, that she wouldn't notice and might get a fright if they called into the house. As soon as the guys drove off, he hopped in his boat and tore across the water to his place as it was quicker than driving. He got to his place and threw on a dress, a wig, some old boots and grabbed his rifle. He hid in the house and waited for his friends to arrive. They arrive and are looking around the property when he bursts out of the house screaming like an old woman. The guys are about to try and calm her down when he cocks the rifle and starts letting shots off above their heads. They only realized it was him when they stopped screaming their heads off long enough to realize that the mother had literally keeled over laughing. They had all pretty much shit their pants. Two of the guys had bolted and were gone. He said it took them about an hour to get over the fright. Needless to say, they never pulled a practical joke on him again. Another one. These guys used to work on a building site. Their boss was really predictable and every day like clockwork would go to the same portaloo and have a crap. They started hooking the seat up to a battery, so he started getting an electric shock when he sat down on the seat. He stopped going to the portaloo and used to go to this spot in some woods nearby. They stalked him for a few days and realize he always went to the exact same spot. So one day they put some dirt and leaves on a spade and hid in a ditch behind him. Apparently it took a few days, but bingo. One of the days he shit directly onto the spade, which they very quietly removed it so there was nothing on the ground. Apparently the poor bastard came back to his staff white as a ghost, thinking he was losing his mind. He told them about his vanishing shit. They all had to fight back the tears from laughing. It turned out it freaked him out so much. He used to drive 10 minutes off-site to use the bathroom as it freaked him out so much. Story 11. I had a friend whose roommate had a large German Shepherd dog. One day when she came home from work, she found him playing with the next-door neighbor's kid's pet bunny, dead. She panicked and gave the bunny a bath, blow-dried it, and placed it back in its cage, afraid to tell the neighbors that her dog killed it. A couple of hours later, they heard the neighbor's kid screaming hysterically. It turns out the bunny had died and they had buried it, and her dog had dug it up to play with it. Final story. Enjoy. I am an American in China and I arranged a meeting with a guy from Germany. I go to his hotel. He says, "I'm coming down in the elevator." The elevator opens and the only Western face I see is a guy looking for me, or so I thought. He introduces himself with a thick accent. We talked for half an hour before we both figured out that we were supposed to be meeting other business persons. And, yep, there they were in the elevator area waiting for us, another American and a German. Go figure. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like.